Hello and welcome to the Business Today show. I'm Udayan Mukherjee. Well, the RPG group has always been the most dominant business group in the eastern part of the country. But almost a decade ago, the late RP Goenka, called his two sons together, Harsh and Sanjiv, and divided his considerable business empire between the two brothers. And today I have with me the man behind successful and iconic brands like CESC, Saregama, First Source, Spencer's, and now more recently 2Yum. It gives me great pleasure to welcome Sanjiv Goenka from Kolkata. Sanjiv, thank you very much for joining in, and it's very good to see you again after a long time.
It's good to see you too, Udayan. It's been ages, but it's always a pleasure to be with you on a show.
Thank you very much, Sanjiv. But as I introduced you, I was looking at your group's interests this morning, and I said it was so diverse. From old age businesses like power, energy, carbon black, and now to such a swathe of new generation businesses like from FMCG, retail, entertainment, music, information technology. How do you keep a handle on all these kind of diverse and disparate businesses? At some point, don't you get torn in too many directions?
Not really. 3 points I'd like to make. One, all the businesses have critical mass, and they lead in terms of operational efficiencies in all the industries that we operate. So because of their efficiencies, each one of them have earned the right to grow. One. Two, we have very, very strong and very capable management teams with each of the companies who are professionals, experts, and who pretty much run the day-to-day businesses on their own. So they come to me by exception. Three, we have a very robust system of reporting. So we have reviews which happen very frequently, and the reviews are broken into two parts. One is the operations review, and one is the new initiatives review. So if you know how to focus, if you keep a sharp focus, you actually land up with time on your hands.
Parents like to say that all their children are the same, but life teaches us that that's not almost exactly correct. They like to be that way, think like that way, but it turns out to be something else. Among all these children of yours, these businesses, are there some which are closer to your heart than others?
No, really none. At the end of the day, you may enjoy some more, you may enjoy some less. But that doesn't mean anything. At the end of the day, as long as the business throws up either cash flows or valuations, it makes sense to have it in your portfolio.
That's an interesting line, and I will pick up on that. Cash flow or valuations, you said. So let me start by the one which is creating valuations. It's not your oldest business or your biggest business, but it's certainly been the biggest wealth creator in your fold, which is the music business of Saregama. But you always had a wealth of assets in that business. The library was second to none. But it's only in the last 2 or 3 years that you've really started to be able to monetize it. So take us through what your plans are with Saregama, and do you think this is the cusp of the monetization wave? And as streaming becomes more and more powerful, you will actually be able to realize maximum value for that business, which you may not have done 5 or 7 years ago.
Absolutely. I think Saregama has completely reinvented itself in terms of the management team, in terms of the approach, in terms of being completely at it, with it, in terms of technology, in terms of developments, in terms of leading from the front, in terms of getting back into acquisition of repertoire. So Carvaan was one of the biggest technological marvels where you actually have a digital product, but presented and made simple enough for an older generation audience. So it was thought out that it should not be intimidating for people over 45. It should be simple to use and yet digitally and technologically savvy. So it's this kind of thought, it's this kind of innovation that's driving the company. So of course, streaming helps, and it helps enormously. But I think it's a series of things beginning with the management team.
Would Carvaan be the main vehicle? Because, Saregama is more than Carvaan. Carvaan has been a remarkable success, but the kind of licensing deals that you've done, the one with Spotify a while back was a case in point. Also, your foray into the OTT spectrum with your medium and low budget movies. So it seems like Saregama is positioning itself as a larger entertainment company rather than just a Carvaan focused direct music company.
No, Carvaan is an instance of innovation, of invention, of use of technology. But what I was trying to illustrate is the thought process and the change that's gone in the whole psyche of the company. So yes, we are content providers. We are entertainment providers. Music is one element. We had many more plans which got put on pause because of COVID. But hopefully they will all now be put into action.
So tell us a bit about the kind of avenues you will grow with Saregama. I mean, what lies ahead? I mean, what are the key thrust areas for that company going forward?
I can talk about certain things, and certain things it's a little premature to talk about. But what I will say is that we are now going very strong in regional music. We've become very big. We've become number one in Tamil music. We made an entry into Telugu music. We've become number one in Bhojpuri music. We're almost number one in Gujarati music. In Hindi music, we have Sanjay Leela Bhansali now back with us. We have Karan Johar back with us. We have Akshay Kumar back with us. So we have some of the biggest names back with us. That's not because they like the look of my face or my people. That's because they're confident that Saregama can deliver the best result to them.
Okay. You spoke about wealth creation. You've created wealth with Saregama, but the company which you've been engaged with, the retail business, that has still not created the kind of wealth people may have expected with Spencer's. I mean, you did do an interesting acquisition of Nature's Basket, but if you look at the market cap and how it's grown, Spencer's still seems like a fledgling company. I mean, you look at the D-Marts of the world and what they've achieved in the last 10 years, Spencer's has not quite achieved that nearly that much or grown at that pace. What are your plans with that? I mean, what do you see ahead for Spencer's?
Well, Spencer's truly has not grown at the pace that others have grown, like D-Mart. But we've taken a policy that we will not go for debt. So because we've not taken debt, we've grown small, but we want to grow definitely. Lots of initiatives are afoot in Spencer's. The out-of-store sales, call it digital, call it delivery, call it on phone, whatever that format might be, that is something that's being focused on. Apparel, everyday wear, lounge wear, relaxed wear, that is another area of focus. High margin, strong focus. So Nature's Basket was in keeping with our philosophy of value-added retail. We didn't want to be in the sabse sasta game because there's no end to that. There's no end to discounting. Nature's Basket was a differentiated retailer aimed at the higher end of the market. So that fitted in with our philosophy. And quite honestly, without meaning to sound condescending, we didn't want to become another Future. So we didn't want to have debts. We didn't want to have this kind of thing. You can grow. It's very easy to expand by taking debt, but we didn't want to do that. So we were cautious. Yes, in hindsight, we could have been more aggressive, but that's something that we need to do now, and we will do.
So you're not going to be ultra conservative with your expansion plans for Spencer's because of your reluctance to take on debt, even going forward?
We won't be ultra conservative with any of our expansion plans. There are significant cash flows now. We are very lowly geared as a group. And as each of our companies, excepting power, which is capital intensive, All our companies have no long-term debt at all. Some of them don't even have working capital debt. Some of them do. And we have significant cash flows now. So the ability to actually invest for growth should be fairly easy.
Now, it's interesting you mention all this, Sanjiv, because you're getting into another pond which requires deep pockets, because you are up with some of the biggest players in the country, which is your consumer goods business, whether it's foods with 2yum or your hair care and skincare products. In your own city, ITC has been trying to create this FMCG enterprise with varying degrees of success for a few years now. And it requires a lot of financial muscle and staying power. You're sure, given your philosophy of not extending yourself on the balance sheet front, that you're up for this game?
If I wasn't confident, I wouldn't have been in it. And at the end of the day, it's only time that's going to prove whether I'm right or not. Whatever I may say may sound not so convincing to you, so I'm not even going to try and explain that. But if I put my bets on this, I've done it with the conviction that we will succeed. 2yum in this very short period has created a market for healthy Western snacks. It's a market which did not exist in India. It's become the preferred brand for healthy snacking now. Naturally, which is our brand for personal care, has just been launched. It's been launched in 2 cities so far, Bangalore and NCR. No advertising, but incredible amount of repeat business. Absolutely incredible. It's overwhelming. Early days, long way to go. But the beginnings are very good. Yes, we know we're going to lose money. When you look at a power plant, you look at a power project, you look at 5,000, 10,000 crores of investment, which involves 3,000, 4,000 crores of equity. 3,000, 4,000 crores is all that I need to fund 10 years of losses in FMCG. So, it's not that big a deal in the context. When you have cash flows of 5,500 crores, you're looking at funding 300 or 400 crores or 250 crores of losses.
It's not a big deal. Is that the same thought process which drove you to towards the IPL Lucknow franchise, which in the near term will not make a lot of money for you? Maybe it will take a decade or so, but eventually you see it working out?
I've said this on more occasions than one in the past. I had a very different way of looking at the IPL. I do believe this is a huge value creation opportunity, first point. And in 5 to 7 years, I expect these franchises to be valued at 2 billion at least. 2, look at the investment I'm making. And the economics have changed for the better since the time I won the bid and today, because it appears the broadcast rights will go at significantly higher sums than was planned or anticipated in those days. So as it stands, my investment in year 1 will be 500 crores. My investment from years 2 to year 6 will be 250 crores a year. And thereafter, there is no further investment. So less than 2,000 crores for an IPL franchise. Chennai Super Kings is already valued at 7,600 crores. I think the math is there for anyone to see.
So it was a hard business decision, right, Sanjiv? Because, with these
Absolutely.
things, you never know what the line is between it being a business call or being a trophy that you're acquiring for other reasons. I mean, businessmen have been known to do that, but you thought of it as a pure business opportunity.
You look at trophies and you look at all these things impressing you and vanity investments when you're 25 and 30. When you're 60, only fools look at vanity for investments. I certainly don't think I'm in that category.
Well, I'll come back and talk about 25 and 30 about your children, because they would be listening to you saying all these things, and I know it's not intended for them. But I want to spend a minute on this power business, the thousands of crores of investment that you were just talking about. How do you regard that business? Because for a lot of people, I'm talking about generation now. Your plants in Haldia and Chandrapur, the thermal power plants, it seems for a lot of investors like yesterday's business, polluting, coal, and the world is moving on to something else altogether. I mean, do you worry that you are stuck in a business where the environmental winds are blowing too heavily against you?
I had actually stopped investing in thermal power generation 5 years ago. And I'm on record at our AGM 5 years ago saying that we will not invest in thermal power generation capacity. What we've already started or what we've invested remains, obviously, but we will not invest in any additional capacity. So this is not surprising. This is something that was known. It was clearly seen. An environment has to take over. We were the first thermal power company in Asia to register with UNFCCC for carbon credits. Our plants are actually environmentally sensitive, friendly, and I'd urge you to come and visit one of our plants, any of our plants. And for example, at Haldia, you mentioned Haldia. We grow 500 kinds of herbs there. Herbs which go into traditional Indian Ayurvedic medicines. We have a butterfly park there. It's really to be seen, to be believed. It's the conventional view of a power plant is polluting, dirty, soot, coal. That's not the way new plants are built.
Even so, I think you can see that some of your friends and peers are actually throwing billions of dollars at renewable energy. I mean, whether it's the Ambanis or the Adanis. I know that you are also into the renewables business, but are your plans aggressive on that front, or are you conservative in renewable expansion as well?
We've been conservative so far. I do believe for power, the way to go is distribution. And there'll be enough power available for the taking. So I would rather not invest in generation. I would invest in distribution, which is where we are growing. And we've taken over 3 cities in Rajasthan. We've taken over distribution of Malegaon in Maharashtra. We won the bid for Chandigarh, and there'll be more.
A quick break at this point in time, and we shall return with Sanjiv Goenka after this break. Don't go away.
Have you heard about light pollution? Yes, lights can cause pollution. In Paris, at the end of 18th century, only half of the city's street lights were lit at night during the full moon. The reason was economical rather than environmental. Initially seen as inconvenient, nowadays light pollution or photo pollution has become a major concern. As soon as the night falls, urban areas are engulfed by a halogen halo as streets and buildings are artificially lit up, blotting out stars. The phenomena has massively increased during the past 20 years. Much of the Earth is now visible from space at night. Light pollution poses several different problems. Artificial light attracts millions of insects, preventing them from providing a food source for birds and disrupting the food chain. It also causes disorientation of migrating birds who navigate using the stars. Artificial light can also interrupt the life cycles of trees. Those lit up at night tend to lose their leaves later. Humans can also be affected with problems like sleeping and concentrating. Some surveys have even linked long-term exposure to strong artificial light with cancer. Directing light towards the sky or at a building facade instead of the ground is also a huge waste of energy.
Welcome back. You've been watching the Business Today show. I've been in conversation with Sanjiv Goenka. Now let me come back to the point which I started with, which is basically looking back to 2013 when the group was carved up between you and your brother Harsh.
2010.
Now before we talk about that,
it was carved up in 2010.
2010. Correct. Now, how do you see, having gone through that, how do you see your empire now? You're 61 or 60 or 61. How do you see your group between your son and your daughter? Are they going to be the inheritors? Have you thought of a succession plan with your son? Because they seem to be engaged in different businesses. Your daughter, Avarna, in Saregama, your son in First Source and in the retail side of the business. Has your mind started working already with a succession blueprint?
No. I think I'm going to be around for a while. I'm going to be working for a while. So they handle different parts of the businesses for sure. They're both highly capable kids. They're both toppers. They're both 5-pointers. They've both gone to Wharton. And they're both doing a very decent job of what they're doing. Both are kids with their feet firmly on the ground. And I can only say one thing. And I'm not saying this because they are my children, but I'm very proud to be their father.
So they are being groomed, right, in a sense?
Of course.
Okay, take us back to 2010 then. That's history, water under the bridge, but how did it feel when you heard about it the first time, when your father told you that this is going to happen? Because you were much younger then. And, there was no rift between you and your brother from what is known publicly. So did it come as a shock? Did it come as a surprise? How did you take it, each of you?
It was completely unexpected. It came like a bolt from the blue. So it was 26th of February in 2010, 4 days before his 80th birthday. And he said, this is what I've decided to do. And over the years, I had realized, I'd learned that there were many things you could mold my father's opinion. In some things, there was just no way. He was decided. And if he had decided, he had decided. You couldn't make him change his thinking. So that was it. It was different. For 30 years, Harsh and I worked together, speaking 5 times, 8 times, 10 times a day, speaking on anything and everything. So it took some time to get mentally used to the fact that you'd be working independently. But that's the way it is. And Harsh and I have very good relations. We speak regularly. We have long conversations. We share many things. And we feel good for each other when the other does well. So I think that, to my mind, is the best thing.
But in retrospect, do you think it was the right thing to have done on your father's part, or would you have done it differently?
I don't know. It's not relevant. Why should I waste my time on something that was beyond my control? It was his to decide. That's the way he decided it. You can always say this was right, that was not right, this was very right. Who's to say? It's the way it is. And life has taught me one thing: accept reality, move on.
Fair point. Now Harsh lives in Bombay, you live in Kolkata, and you've never shifted your base. You've got IPL in Lucknow, you've got distribution in Noida, you're now going to have distribution in Chandigarh, businesses all over the place outside India. But Kolkata remains steadfastly your base. Is there some mooring or anchoring with that city? I mean, how you feel about it?
Oh, yes. Kolkata is home for me. It's where I've been born, brought up. It's a city which has given me enormous love, enormous respect. And if I had a choice, this would be a city I would continue to live in. And I think the same holds true for my son. And that's his choice, by choice.
I mean, people in Kolkata would be calling you an adopted Bangali Bhadralok, would they not now?
Akebare. Absolutely.
Before we end, Sanjiv, tell us a little bit about how your personal life is. I mean, are the things that interest you in business, music, films. I've been to your house many years ago and I was very impressed with the kind of art collection you have. Are these the things which are passions for you at a personal level as well?
Well, music certainly is. I listen to a lot of music. Kishore, Lata are my favorites. I mean, I can keep listening to these songs again and again and again and again. I watch a lot of films. So, but right now, my biggest detox, my biggest stress buster is my little granddaughter, who's 8 months, Aravya, Shashwat and Shivika's daughter. And so every moment I can get to spend with her, I would just do that and drop anything else.
Nice to hear that, Sanjiv, and it's been great catching up with you today. I wish you all the best, you and your children and your group, and stay blessed as always. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Diane. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you.